For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Should I start out by getting in trouble and using the C word already? Merry Christmas, everybody. Merry Christmas. Thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate your time today. And yeah, I think I ended the show last week by saying you're probably not going to be all caught up in the hustle and bustle of Christmas this year. So you've got plenty of time to sit and listen to crap like this. So I appreciate your attention on the show. Come on, we're not giving you anything. We promote it as 30 minutes of time-wasting fun. That's how we promote this thing. So I don't expect any big takeaways on the show this week. But and I'll be honest with you, by the way, it is November 3rd for us here. I know our show falls on a Friday, so we've got Christmas and New Year's Eve kind of all in the same week, the way this calendar falls. And I really have no interest in working in December, and I don't normally. So I'm not here right now. I guess if that's kind of... I'm so used to the radio that we're live and we're, and then when we're pre-taped, I kind of feel guilty, like I'm lying to you, like I'm being deceitful. And it's the holidays. I shouldn't be deceitful. But anyway, we've actually had some really interesting shows for the past couple of weeks here on The Scribble. If this is your first time tuning in, thank you so much. Last week we had Michael Gross and Meredith Baxter from Family Ties. I thought it was kind of fun to take a walk down memory lane with TV sitcom stars, legends from the 80s. And then the week before that, Candace Cameron Bure from Fuller House. And we actually didn't even talk about that show. Isn't that crazy? We didn't even talk Full House. So, and I mentioned The View one time. So, anyway. So check out those episodes if you haven't listened to them. Or, like I said, if you're new to the show, you've missed a whole bunch of celebrity fun. But again, the big takeaway is that it's time-wasting fun. We're not here to change the world. This week on the show, though, I do want to share a very close sort of personal story, and anybody who listens to my broadcasts knows that I don't really open up about my personal life or relationships with people very often. And so this week I wanted to just sort of take a moment to reflect on a relationship that I had with somebody, and she was such a dear, became a very, very close friend, and we couldn't be more opposite in our lives. But for some reason, it just worked. We just hit it off and became great friends. I'm going to tell you about the special woman, Marion, who was in my life for many years. Unfortunately, passed away from cancer recently. But I want to pay tribute to my good friend during the holiday season, and that's starting right after this on The Scribble.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
JB here, back on The Scribble. And again, happy holidays, whatever you celebrate, you know the drill. Okay, so several years ago, actually many years ago, I would say it's close to maybe, I don't even know already, I would say 13, 14, maybe 15 years ago, I was wanting to make it big in journalism, in media anyway. And I thought that if I took a job at a newspaper, not necessarily in the newsroom, but just at a newspaper, that would sort of be my foot in the door. Maybe that's how it works in a lot of places. But it was for a company called CanWest Global. And if anybody in Canada who's listening to this is old enough, you know kind of the regime that was running CanWest Global. You kind of had to toe the company line. You couldn't really have your own opinion. Shut up if you have an opinion. This is your opinion, and it's what the company says. And me, being the outspoken loudmouth that I am, I didn't survive there. So I started out in the newspaper offices and sort of in customer service, kind of the PR-y sort of area of customer service. And my first day that I was there, you do the training, right? And then oftentimes you're paired up with somebody in a workplace, right? You sort of shadow them, you watch what they go through. And I was teamed up with this woman named Marion. And, here I was, I would say, I was mid-20s, I guess, at the time. And she was older, at least middle-aged. I didn't know at the time. And she was kind of just like the veteran there. She just knew her stuff. Anybody new that was coming in was sort of paired with her because she was kind of the poster child of good customer service, the ideal employee. Well, very quickly I changed that once we met. And so I sat with Marion, and I kind of watched what she did when she was talking with newspaper subscribers, and she would call people to ask, you just started your subscription. Did you get your paper today? Was it in the right spot? Did you have to look for it? Was it in one piece? That kind of a thing. Just a very PR kind of a job. And I was like, okay, cool. And we took our lunch break. We work in the evening, so it was a dinner break, I guess. And we went down to a food court in the mall that was attached to our office building. And we just started talking. Like, it wasn't even the first time that we met. It just seemed like we've known each other for a long time, or we know each other from a different life. It was just so comfortable. And we started to laugh. From day one, we started to sort of have inside jokes. We kind of just, and so again, here I am, this, early 20-something gay guy. She's, I would say, at least 40, if not 50-something at the time. I'm, this skinny little boy. She was sort of overweight and I don't know, just, you would just not think that we would, I guess you probably would think that the gay guy would hit off with the older straight lady, the mom. But anyway, but she was somebody who, she just got a new digital camera. She was fascinated about how it worked, the different features. She knew more about it than I did with the camera that I had. And this was also around the time that camera phones were just starting to. I don't think that your phones had email and internet and things like that. I think you just were starting to text and then have a very, very cheap camera on it. And she would sit there and just read this instruction manual from her digital camera. And she was just fascinated. She loved photography. She just wanted to know. And I remember sitting there going, I compared her to kind of like my dad, who would have an interest in it, but always was kind of fearful of technology, like wanted to know how to use it, but was just so skeptical, and there was something wrong with it that it just couldn't be so, right? It was too good to be true. And Marion was a teacher at heart, and that was something that she wanted to do. So she was showing me all these different features on her camera. I'll be honest, I didn't give two shits about it, but when you got somebody who's just sort of talking with such passion about it, like, she could easily be a salesperson. She could have easily worked at Best Buy or whatever and sold me that camera because she believed in every feature that she was telling me about. And to me, I just found that so funny. And like I said, so we did lunch, and then as we were coming back up, my cell phone, had Under the Sea from Little Mermaid just started playing as we were in the elevator. I don't remember if it was somebody called me or what happened, but anyway, here we are, the two of us. We were rocking that elevator, pretty good dancing. Like I said, she was kind of a bigger gal. And here we are, like, we just met not even 5 hours ago, and we're dancing together in the elevator. And I'm sure there was probably a security camera or whatever. And we came back from the break, giggling and laughing. And I remember somebody saying, like, oh, do you guys know each other? And I remember no, we just met. Like, it was just this instant friendship, instant chemistry. And like I said, I didn't last at the company very long because I had an opinion, and I don't shut my mouth about it. And come to think of it, actually, Marion didn't either. She was very outspoken, but I think that she just needed somebody to pull that out of her, Like, I think that she was kind of this middle-aged woman who's just happy with the job. I'm not going to rock the boat. I'm just going to do my job, keep my head down, collect the paycheck, and get out of here. All of a sudden, this young whippersnapper, comes in, and I started all sorts of trouble. And basically what happened was I had, it was actually around Christmas time. This is sort of why I'm also telling the story. There was something that I found to be offensive in the newspaper that the newspaper had written and published. And a lot of readers were contacting and saying, like, well, this seems not really cool. Like, so I looked at what they were talking about, I was kind of like, you know what, I sort of agree with you. I get it. I hear you. And I had sent an email, not a nasty one, not telling off anybody, surely not trying to cause trouble. But I sent this email to the publisher of the newspaper, and I just said, like, I sort of agree with them. I kind of get where they're at. Like, it is sort of offensive, blah, blah. Well, then I had gone on vacation because before I started working there, I had booked a trip to Los Angeles with my friend. So this was the first time that I had ever been to LA. I wasn't in radio yet. I wasn't really doing any of those kinds of things. And I come back because I was super excited. I had my copy of the LA Times, which was just a massive stack of a newspaper at the time. And I thought, well, here, I'm going to bring this into a newspaper office and show people, like, this is the Sunday paper. You know, where I'm from, the Sunday paper is sort of the small one that nobody reads. In Los Angeles, this was the paper of the week. So I've got that. I had a couple of things, one I bought for Marion, one that I had put on my desk. Within 30 minutes of coming back after being away for a few days, I was hauled into the HR office. They had printed out the email, and they said, did you send this? And I said, yes, I did. Well, we don't do that here. And I said, what are you talking about? Well, we don't do that. Well, what don't we do though? We can't do that. Okay, great. My question is though, what is it that we can't do? Did I use like foul language? Like what happened? Why? Now again, like I said, this is a company that if you didn't toe the line, you rocked the boat, you disagreed with them, you were out on your ass. And that's essentially what happened to me. And so I think they thought that I was fighting for my job, but meanwhile, I just didn't really quite get it. And so for me, any type of a work environment where you're going to push me around, you're going to bully me, you're going to intimidate me, I'm gone anyway. I could be broke, I could be homeless. I'm not going to put up with that kind of shit. And I've always been that sort of employee. And so for me, I wasn't fighting for my job. I'm just wanting you to give me answers. Like if you're telling me that I can't do this because, tell me why that is. Why am I not allowed to have an opinion? But yet we're in a newspaper. We're in this industry where it's all about opinions. And so anyway, I was escorted out. They went to get my things. And so naturally, Marion, and I'd worked there now for a few months at this point. It wasn't like it was still it wasn't my first week. And she was excited to see me. She wanted to know, she always called me kiddo. How was your trip, kiddo? And I couldn't even really start to tell her the stories. And you know how it works when all of a sudden somebody comes and they take the person's jacket, right? They'll take their bag or their purse or, whatever it is you have. And you're kind of like, oh boy, was shown the door. Okay. And so Marion started freaking out because she didn't know, one, that I had sent the email that I did before I left, and two, was just like, what happened? Where is he going? And so I was escorted out. I was thrown out, really. And she was calling me. I don't even know that I had even been fully downstairs in the elevator at this point. And she was already calling, asking what's going on, what's happening. And I said, no, they fired me, and that's that. And she was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Now, I was living with my parents. I was in their basement at the time, so it's not like I was, completely, broke and was going to be out on the streets. I went home. And I just remember her being so devastated. And from that point on, she was kind of on the warpath. Like, she was just... Because I said to her, I'm like, I just sent an email saying that I kind of agreed with these people, and it's sort of offensive and whatever. Now, had it been today, my opinions would have been much stronger, and I would have not bitten my tongue because I know the game. Like, I've got confidence now. But yeah, I was just a 20-some employee, so I mean, I was gentle in the way that I approached it. Apparently, it was too much. So I just remember Marion saying, "That's bullshit. I can't believe it. I'm not staying here if they're going to treat people like that. You were one of the best." And sure enough, I actually was a really, really good employee. But like I said, your opinion and voicing it would get you fired from this place. Now, thankfully, CanWest Global has gone out of business. It was bought out because the family sort of drove their own company into the ground. And so Marion and I stayed in touch after I worked with her for that few months. And because, again, I got fired, I think it was beginning of December or so, she skipped the company Christmas party, and she's like, you know what, I don't even want to go. These people are, I can't even pretend to like them. I can't even be nice. She's like, let's go to dinner. And so we ended up actually going for dinner, basically across the street from their office. And she's like, we'll have our own Christmas party. And I said, okay, cool. And she's Ukrainian, just like I am. And we had dinner, we had some laughs, we had some drinks. She took the bus home one direction, I took the bus home in the other direction, and it was good. I mean, we were kind of tipsy on the way home. And that was great. So then the next Christmas get-together that we had was Ukrainian Christmas in January. And she invited me to her family Christmas. And I kind of thought that was sort of weird at the time because, especially in our family, like, if you're an outsider, you're not really coming to the big get-togethers. You're not coming to Easter, Christmas, or Thanksgiving. You might come to, a birthday party or whatever, but not the core holidays in our family. But I was like, okay, you know what? I've heard all about her kids. I've heard all about her husband, Ed. So why not meet them? Like, okay. And she had a couple, I think, of her in-laws that'll be coming. And so it was going to be a good time. And she had just come back from Ukraine. This was when the Ukraine elections were happening. And they wanted observers from Canada. And Marion went. And then she ended up going back just as a vacation. She just took a trip there. And because she had this love for her digital camera and taking photos, she had a lot. And you know how people will... Remember you used to watch a slideshow back in the day, or you'd have somebody open up the photos on their computer and you'd sit there, or now people do it with their phone. You're just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling photos, and you're like, okay, I get it. Well, we had a great Ukrainian dinner at Marion's house, and then the guests had left and the family had gone to bed. And she wanted to show me the pictures and videos from Ukraine. And so I said, okay. And this is where we sort of turned into like teenage girls staying up late, where she's showing me all these videos. It was like going back in time to see the pictures and just sort of the life there. And there were so many times when we would be laughing incredibly hard that her husband or her kid, somebody would yell, "Shut up!" or open the door and tell us to be quiet. Oh, could you keep it down? And, then we cover our mouth because we're just laughing. And there was one moment where I'm not kidding you, I almost started to pee. Remember how Slater on Saved by the Bell would sit, he would flip the chair around so he would lean sort of at the back of the chair and put his arms on it? Well, Marion, and like I said, kind of a bigger gal, her back was sore, so she turned the chair around that she was in and was sort of leaning forward on it. And we just started laughing out of nowhere, and she went and she leaned back and fell flat on her back on the floor. And I'm laughing even harder now, right? We just got in trouble. We just got scolded for being so loud. And now we're trying to hold in our laughter. And it was just so ridiculous. And we were laughing so I can't tell you how much fun I had that night. It was just, like I said, an odd couple, this weird relationship that we had. It just worked. And then, so as the years went on, that was when I started to get into radio, and I started to do, my newspaper columns and broadcasting. And I bought a house. My career was really taking off. Marion ended up going back to school. She wanted to become a teacher. She went back to school. She got a job teaching. And now here I am, right? Like I said, I wanted to be in broadcasting or journalism or something in communications like that. Look at that. I started a radio show. I started a newspaper column. And all these years later, Marion, look at that. 15 years later, I'm still doing both of them. And we would start to have phone calls. We didn't get together very much. But I would know, when I saw Marion's name come up on my phone, I knew that I was in for at least a 2-hour phone call. And I think nowadays what people do is sometimes you'll text, right? Hey, you busy? Hey, can you talk? And you almost sort of plan the call. Well, we never did that. It would just, remember, you would just call somebody because you were thinking about them and because you wanted to talk. And so, yes, I remember. And I would talk with her. I had one dog at the time, Ernie. And she was amazed because he was a golden retriever and he was just so well behaved. He was mild-mannered. He was great. And she also was excited because I bought a house and I started to travel more, and I had gone to Toronto for Canadian Idol, and I had gone back to Los Angeles, though. This time I was covering an event. I was covering America's Got Talent. And then I was in New York covering Celebrity Apprentice. And again, I always heard her I can still hear her in my head calling me kiddo. And I remember her saying to me one time, "You're going places, kiddo." And to me, that was so, When you're an upcoming entrepreneur, and this is the crazy thing, my family was totally cool with the whole gay thing. It wasn't that I wasn't accepted, it was actually not accepted that I wanted to be an entrepreneur and be my own boss. So my mom would tell me, like, when are you going to get a real job? Why don't you just give up already? Nobody's going to hire you. Nobody's going to do that. And then I've got Marion, who's not my mom, but sort of made me feel like she was my mom. And you're going places, kiddo. And she was, I think, more excited for me going to these events and doing things than I was. And she was always waiting to hear. She would know, you know how some people will ask, like, oh, so when do you come back? Like from a holiday or whatever. They're asking for the sake of making conversation. They're not going to remember, oh, I fly in Monday night. They might remember Monday, but then she would remember, or she would know, or she would even look up the flight to see when I was coming in from wherever. Not in a stalkery way. I'm saying like in a caring, sort of nurturing way. And would either call to make sure that I, find out how it was, to make sure that I got home safe. And I don't know, it just touched me. It was just so nice and genuinely caring. And then, out of nowhere, I got a phone call one night. And when I would talk with Marion, I would sort of pace through the house. I would kind of be walking around. I wouldn't really stay in one place because it was just so long. So I would go upstairs to my bedroom, walk around, come back downstairs. And out of nowhere, I could tell that it wasn't going to be the same kind of a phone call that we normally had. And so I answered the phone, and she's like, hey, kiddo. And I said, hi, how's it going? She didn't say anything. And she just said, I'm dying. And I mean, how do you respond to something I'm not expecting that. I don't know. And again, you look at these people as being this like, strong-willed person who nothing can take her down. And so she told me that she had cancer, and I said, like, oh my God, what are you? How are you feeling? Is everything okay? And she was crying because she was going to be leaving the world, is sort of what she said to me. And and me being the jokester and kind of the laughing person that I am, right? I'm very sarcastic. I don't like to take things seriously. I sort of look at that and go, I almost feel like I need to change the mood. Like I don't want to hear her like this. It was depressing me, and I sort of look at that as my that's my challenge, right? Well, I'll make you laugh then. Let's have some laughs. Let's not have a conversation like this. And truly, within a matter of months, she was whittling away. I guess it would be withering away, and was in palliative care. And then we went and on Remembrance Day, so November 11th, I went to go and visit her at the home, and I almost didn't recognize her. Like she just was not the same. You could tell that she wanted to have the same energy, but she just couldn't. And it was really sad because, like I said, over the course of the years, I mean, I was invited to her daughter's wedding. I videotaped the wedding. I, it just sort of became an honorary family member of hers. And there were some regrets. She like I said, she ultimately died. It was at the end of that November, so several years ago now. And I remember having regrets about a couple of things. One was that she never got a chance to visit me, like in my house. She never got a chance to see my house. She never got a chance to meet Ernie. And I never used the G word with her. Strangely, I never said about the whole gay thing. Now, I don't know that it would have made a difference. I don't think that she would have looked at me differently. If anything, she probably would have, embraced me and supported me even more. But there's a regret, though, that I still didn't even say it. And it wasn't a matter of hiding who I was. I was hanging out with guys. I was, in a relationship here or there or whatever it was. It just never came up. Like, we just never had that discussion. But now, in hindsight, you always feel like you were hiding something from the person that, you cared about, right? We shared so much about each other's lives. And so that's a regret that I have. And at her funeral, I remember... I was there with the family, and everybody kind of takes their sort of moment with the casket, and you put your hand on it and you say what you're going to say, or you do whatever. And that was when I said, Marion, I'm gay. And there was something that was just so... There was something that was just so sad, because I feel like I was living a lie. And like I said, I didn't talk about girls and pretend or anything like that. I just didn't say it, right? I just didn't acknowledge it. And I don't know why. I know, like I said, I know that it wouldn't have made a difference. It really wouldn't have. But, so those are some of the regrets that I have. I feel bad about that. Now, we've got to move this along. We're going to be running out of time. So after the funeral, like I said, I knew her kids. I knew her husband. Marion's daughter called me and said, my mom left something for you. What do you think when you hear that? All right, I'm gonna give you a moment to ponder that. What do you think this would be? What is it? Something is it going to be cash? Something expensive? I'll tell you what I got coming up after this.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
JB here, back on the Scribble. So I was talking about Marion and what she left me. And of course, it really does get your brain wondering, right? Because I'm sitting there going, maybe she left me her camera because that was sort of like her prized possession and she knew I was doing red carpet stuff. But I already had one. And this is one of those things where and it's totally going to sound cocky, but I'm not meaning it that way. I had a lot more money than she did, so it's not like I was expecting something, of incredible value, or she was going to leave me cash, because she had a husband and 2 kids, right? Like, it's not like she didn't have children and was like, oh, I'm going to leave you my legacy or whatever. But again, then you start to wonder, like, is she leaving me cash? Like, did she, or some, maybe a family heirloom that is worth a lot? And, just everything is going through your head. So I ended up meeting with her daughter, and she gave me a wooden box. And I didn't open it or anything. I was kind of like, oh, cool. And again, this is where I sort of feel bad saying it, but I was kind of like, it's kind of a wooden box. Like, it's really, did I open it and maybe there was going to be cash inside? Like, I don't know. And again, I'm being sarcastic because Marion would appreciate that. And I kind of, in a way, sort of felt disappointed at the beginning because, again, I wasn't expecting something valuable that I can go and pawn or, and get money from. But I was just kind of like, and then this is where I'm going to wrap this up on sort of a happy, optimistic, positive note and a humanity note. This meant something to my dear friend. Whether she just said, hey, this is the perfect thing for Jeremy or whatever. Bottom line is, when she saw this, she said, I want him to have this. This is for him. And that was when I took a step back and I thought, it doesn't matter if this thing is an antique or has value or whatever, or if it was filled with cash or priceless coins and I don't know. Bottom line is that it meant something to her. She thought of me when she thought of this box, and so I'm appreciative of it. I don't know what the story about this box was, and in a way, I almost kind of want to know, where did this come from? What's the story? Her daughter didn't know, but okay, Marion thought of me, and so there we go. I'm happy to have it. And I do have it still. I do have it. I don't use it, but this is the thing, right? Sometimes when you get an item like that, I mean, I could use it on a day-to-day basis, but it's tucked away in a drawer. But I know exactly where it is. I still have it. So anyway, I wanted to share that story as we get through Christmas and New Year's, and everybody who's said that it's just a hum and drum, holiday season this year, and it's been a shitty year or whatever. take a moment to appreciate those relationships, because again, everybody can't wait for the year to be over and let's just start. But here's the deal. This shit is going to follow you for the next couple of weeks, or Corona is going to follow you for next months anyway. Value those relationships and appreciate the time that you have with the people. And the ones who are not here anymore, take a moment to think about what they meant to you. My name is Jerry Bradley. This is The Scribble. We're out of time. Happy New Year, everybody. Talk to you next week. Bye-bye for now.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some